Yo guys, in this video I'll be going over the best GTA Online settings. This video will cover things such as the controls, audio settings, display settings, and also a bonus graphic settings on PC. So if you guys do go on to enjoy this video or find it useful, make sure to leave a like and also consider subscribing. Also make sure to use the timestamps down below. And without any further ado guys, let's jump straight into this video. The first settings that we will be changing will be in the controls section. This will be the first option in the settings tab. Before we change any of these settings in the controls tab, we first of all need to make sure that the show controls for option is set to on foot third person. Any setting that we change on the controls tab, whilst having show controls for on foot third person, will also change the majority of the other settings as well. The first setting that we will be changing will be the targeting mode. To be able to change this setting, you will need to go into story mode first. Once in story mode, we do have the option to change this to assisted aim full, assisted aim partial, free aim assisted, and finally free aim. This setting really comes down to what you guys prefer to play with. Playing on free aim will mean that you guys will not be able to snap to different targets. If you guys are new to GTA Online, I would recommend that you guys select assisted aim full. This will allow you guys to get adjusted to the GTA Online mechanics. Assisted aim full is also great for missions when you will have to shoot different NPCs. However, if you really want to test yourself, you can try free aim as well. Free aim is also a great option to use. It is definitely the most skillful targeting mode. When you guys have selected a targeting mode, we can move down to the vibration option. Now, controller vibration really comes down to personal preference, and it really depends on if you really like it or not. Controller vibration can make you guys feel more immersed into the game. For example, when driving a car and hitting something, your controller will vibrate. I prefer to keep this option off. Moving things down to invert look, a lot of people do like to play it inverted, and when you guys turn invert look on, you guys can look up or down, and essentially it will be sort of opposite. For some reason, turning this on does not affect the left and right when looking around, but if you guys do like to play inverted, this is where you would find this option. After the invert look option, we have two of the arguably most important things, and this will be the third person control type and also the first person control type. The main reason these settings are super important is really down to how much they change the controls on your controller. You guys can go through each of these different control types and try and figure out which is best for you. The control type that I find the best is by far the standard FPS 2, and I use this for both the third person control type and of course the first person control type as well. The most notable change about the standard FPS 2 control type is that it does switch your sprinting button with your right bumper button. The reason this is such a big change is mainly because you will not have to lift your thumb off your analog stick, which in turn will mean that you have full control over your aiming and also looking around of your character. So if you haven't already, try this out and see what you think. For me, this was completely game changing when I did this. After the control type, we have some sensitivity settings that we can adjust. We first of all have the third person aiming sensitivity, and to make this super straightforward, on this whole bar of sensitivity, we can have 14 different notches. And what I mean by this is if we go up 1 on this sensitivity bar, that would be 1 out of the 14. I find playing at 8 sensitivity or just over 8 on the third person aiming sensitivity is absolutely fine, and of course if you want a higher aiming sensitivity in third person, you can adjust this accordingly. For the first person look around sensitivity, this is how fast your character will look around in first person. First person look around is already pretty fast in this game, so for the most part I would only put this on 8. We also have first person aiming sensitivity. I keep this on 8 as well. This will just keep a very nice balance between the look around sensitivity and also the aiming sensitivity. For the third person look around sensitivity, I change this a lot. I prefer to have this on 10 or 11, and this is mainly because third person is a lot slower, especially the look around sensitivity. Of course, you guys can test these different sensitivities out and find what's best for you. Another really important setting that is probably overlooked by a lot of GTA players is the third person aim look dead zone and the first person aim look dead zone as well. This really comes down to your controller and if your controller has stick drift. A very easy way to test this and fine tune this setting is to first of all lower both of these settings down to 0. When on 0, if we back out of the settings tab and then slightly push your right analog stick to look around, if you guys notice when you guys stop moving the analog stick that you are still moving, then you will need to come back into the settings tab and slightly up this dead zone. My controller is relatively new, so I really don't have that much stick drift, but for these dead zone settings, I like to put this on one on each. After both of these dead zone settings are done, we have the look acceleration and aim acceleration for the third person and also first person. And to really quickly go over this, for the third person aim and look acceleration, I keep this on 8. This will make a very nice balance with the other settings. It's not too fast and not too slow. And then for first person aim and look acceleration, I just like to keep this on 9. Having both of these options set at 8 and 9 respectively works the best for me. You guys can further experiment on these different settings here, but finally moving on from the tunable settings, we do have this one right here. Allow movement when zoomed has to be on. If you do not have this setting turned on, you will just stand still when zooming in. You will see on screen right now my character can move while zoomed in. This setting is even more important in GTA Online, as if you guys do fight other online players and you had this setting turned off, you would just stand still on the spot while aiming down a sniper scope, making you a very easy target. The next setting that I like to change as well is the switch handbrake with duck hydraulics. With the control type that we selected, this will make the handbrake button the A button or the X button depending on which console you guys are playing on. I find this much easier, however if you guys don't want to change this, turn this option off. And last but not least, in the controls tab, we have the drive-by control type. And this is really down to you guys and what you would prefer. You can either have aim and fire or just fire. I prefer having aim and fire because we can just aim our gun and don't have to fire. This of course only applies if you guys are in a vehicle. With the aim plus fire setting, we do have the option if we want to shoot, and with the fire setting, we don't really have the option, we just shoot. And that is everything for the controls. We will now be moving over to the audio section of the settings tab. In the audio settings, we only have a few options. The main setting that we will be focusing on in the audio section will be the music volume. The reason the music volume is the best part of the audio settings is because this will affect the radio volume. If you guys do not want to hear the radio, you can turn the music volume all the way down, and this will essentially mute every single song or snippet of audio in the game. Another option that we can change in the audio settings is the radio station. So if you guys do have a preferred radio station, this is where you can change it and it will default and be the selected choice every time you guys enter a vehicle or a different apartment. The audio settings altogether are really down to what you prefer. I would suggest changing a few things in here and trying them yourself. Now that we are done with the audio settings, we will be moving down to the camera settings. The camera settings do offer ourselves some different and also very important options. For the first setting, which is called Allow Independent Camera Modes, I would suggest that you guys turn this off. For vehicle camera height, I prefer to have this on the high setting. Having this on high instead of low will just allow you guys to see much more in front of your car when driving around. Once again, a lot of these settings are just down to your personal preference, but for the first person auto level camera, I like to keep this on. This will just save you guys having to adjust the camera when in first person. Another first person option that we have is the first person on foot field of view, and with this setting it will allow you guys to set a custom field of view for first person, and by putting this on the highest setting it will mean that when we go into first person we will be able to see more of the surrounding area. This is great for PvP situations. After this setting we have the first person ragdoll. I keep this setting on, but to really break down this setting, when you guys are in first person and for example get hit by a car, you will stay in first person and have the ragdoll type of effect. So if you do prefer the third person ragdoll, then you would just have to simply turn this option to off. Another really important setting that we do need to change is the first person combat role. If you have this on and are in first person, you will stay in first person when doing a combat role, which can be really distracting for some players. You will see in the gameplay right now that the first person combat role really restricts a lot of view, and when we turn this off and do a combat role, this will take us briefly out of first person and put us in third person for the combat role. The next setting that we have is the first person head bobbing. This is one of them settings that makes the game feel a little bit more immersive. If you do have this setting turned on, you will notice when running around in first person that your character will start bobbing around. Some people will like this setting turned on and some will definitely like it turned off. I prefer having this setting off as it is a much smoother experience. Another game-changing setting in my opinion is the first person, third person cover. I would recommend that everyone has this setting turned on. In combat situations, this setting is essential, I would say, and to break this setting down, when we take cover in first person, the game will briefly put ourselves in third person, but only while taking cover. The main reason this is so good is because we can see a lot more of our surroundings, and in PvP situations or even fighting NPCs, you will have the ability to look around the corner and sort of give you guys an advantage. The next setting that we have is the first person vehicle auto center. Now I believe that this setting is on default, I just keep this on, and for the first person vehicle HUD I keep this off. If you guys do turn this on, we can see in first person inside a car and any vehicle in GTA Online. This will just switch our view to the front of the vehicle HUD. The only time that you guys would probably use this is if you are in a weaponized vehicle. For example, this setting is super effective with the Night Shark. And last but not least, for the camera settings, we have the first person drive-by camera relative to vehicle. I don't see the point in changing this, so I just keep this on. And just like that, we are done with the camera settings. We now have a few more settings in the display options. First setting that we will have is the graphics mode. As of right now, this will only apply to the next gen version of GTA Online with the next gen consoles. If you guys, for example, are playing on a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X, you will have some ray tracing type of options in this graphics mode. However, if you guys are on a Series S like I am, you will only have the option to choose between performance and also fidelity. Generally, with the graphics mode, people just like to use performance. The game will run a lot smoother with performance settings. However, if you guys want to experience the ray tracing or the new ray traced reflections, this would be where you change this setting. To quickly run through these basic options, for the radar we want this on, unless you guys want probably the most immersive experience in GTA. For the HUD we also want this on as well. The weapon target is really up to your personal choice. I prefer using the complex weapon target. This will give you guys a full crosshair. However, if you do decide to use the simple weapon target, you can adjust the reticle size. For GPS route we want this on. For the expanded radar, if you do decide to turn this on, this will permanently make our radar expanded. Pretty much the same way we would do it by pressing down on the D-pad twice. I prefer keeping this setting turned off as we can just press down on the D-pad, and of course having this permanently on will definitely restrict your view. For player overhead display, this will only work in GTA Online sessions, and this is something that you guys can definitely mess around with. If you do have this option turned on, you will see players' names above their head. For brightness, this just comes down to what you guys prefer. The same goes with the safe zone size as well. I keep this on the max. However, if you do prefer your HUD to be closer into the middle of the screen, you can lower the safe zone size. For the motion blur strength, I don't like motion blur in games, and especially in GTA Online, having motion blur turned all the way up can definitely affect your field of view and what you guys can see around you. One good thing about motion blur though is it will make your game feel very realistic, especially if you are going really fast in different cars. Another option that we can change that makes the game feel really realistic is the in-game depth of field effects. I only have this on because in the Rockstar editor we can edit clips with this and change the depth of field. To quickly go over depth of field, this will affect the focus of things that are close to your character and sort of just blur the background things. This is definitely a great option if you guys want to get immersed, but once again, if you guys are PvP focused, this will not really help you guys whatsoever. For screen kill effects, I just keep this on, and the same thing goes with the subtitles. And finally, for the display tab, we have the measurement system, and for this I just use the Imperial setting. This will really come down to what you guys are most familiar with. Finally guys, we are nearly done with the settings. The next settings tab that we have is the notifications tab. If you guys do not want any phone alerts, we can turn this off here. However, I like to keep every one of these notifications on and just set the message frequency to 1 hour. This will stop you guys getting spammed on your phone by different jobs, and this can definitely save a lot of headache. And the final settings that we have are in the Rockstar editor. If you guys do not use the Rockstar editor, that will be all of the settings done. And even if you guys do use the Rockstar editor, you can pretty much keep everything on default. If you guys wanted my Rockstar editor settings, I just have these right here, and that will be everything for the GTA normal settings. Now, like I said at the start of the video, I will be quickly showing you guys some PC settings. Now over on PC, I do not play with the keyboard and mouse, so all of these settings are just on default. The same goes for the key bindings as well. For graphic settings, I will quickly just scroll through these. Usually I run GTA 5 on PC in all of the high settings. However, if you guys want some performance out of GTA 5 on PC, I would first of all change the population density all the way down or halfway. Same with the variety as well and the distance scaling. After changing these settings, we can pretty much go through all of the other settings and either put them at normal or low. The majority of these settings really just depend on your PC. And after changing all of these settings, we can restart GTA. And one more trick that we can do is to run a benchmark test. So if we come over to the settings tab once again after reloading our game, we can do this with the new settings that we changed and just see how much FPS we get. Keep in mind my GTA 5 on PC is heavily modded with different graphics mods, which of course will affect the performance. If you guys want a more in-depth guide on the graphics for PC, make sure that you guys check out my other video on this. In that video, I go through the low-end settings, the medium-end settings, and also some high-end settings. But other than that guys, that is pretty much every setting. Hopefully this video helps some of you guys who are maybe new to GTA, or even long-time players. These settings should really help you guys out. But yeah guys, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like as it really does help me out and I really do appreciate it. And if you guys are new to the channel and like what you see, make sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications to never miss a video. Finally guys, stay safe and thanks for watching.